What are you looking at first and foremost these days? A lot has happened since, of course, last week with GameStop.
Yeah, I think the GameStop story is a big story, and I call it the part two of the Occupy Wall Street story. The feeling back then was that the problems come from Wall Street, and I thought that was a good observation. And people in the activist community were right to target Wall Street, but there was no way for them to get inside and affect change. Whereas Wall Street Bets and the Reddit group were able to get inside the system, and they were able to attack a hedge fund that was exposed with naked short sales in this case, in the case of GameStop. And collectively they swarmed and they forced a major short squeeze. And Melvin Capital, the hedge fund in question, had a multi-billion-dollar margin call. They had to get bailed out by Citadel. Citadel, of course, bailed them out with money that they themselves got bailed out with from the U.S. taxpayer last year. And it exposed a lot of ugly business going on in the hedge fund community, on Wall Street, with big players like Citadel, who have on their board people like Ben Bernanke, former Fed chairman. So I think this is a populist uprising. I was reading the New York Times covering it today, and they were saying that populism hasn't really entered finance until now, a populist movement. We've been calling for a global insurrection against banker occupation now for almost 20 years. And we introduced the Crash JP Morgan Buy Silver campaign back in 2010. We did a project called Karma Bank back in 2003, which was tying activists to hedge funds. We've been talking about Bitcoin since 2011, primarily as a way to unseat the current fiat money system and to replace it with Bitcoin, which is the best money ever. And so that's been a thread that's been present throughout all of our work, I would say. This past week, it all kind of came together, and there was a great through line between what we started doing in 2003 all the way up to the present. That was very interesting to see. But I guess the story, the GameStop story and the Wall Street Bet story is a big story this week. It should be. I think it's the beginning of a populist movement in finance, and it's long overdue.